Betting Weekly.
All I do is win, no matter what.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
I don't want to lose. I want to win. I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly, sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is Easy Sports Data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. We are joined again this week by John from GMF Sports Consultants, and we're not going to actually waste any time. You know, John, we got a little earlier start than normal because of the loudmouths that come after us. So we got to make sure we get all that we've got in to say. We're not actually loudmouths, but I would venture that we could be very close at times. So let's do this. Let's ask you how your week is going from a sports betting situation.
So far, so good. The week is going good. Just doing some more analyzing, keeping those trends and stats for Major League Baseball going. NBA, we're kind of tailing off on NBA. Going to really start focusing more on the playoffs once that happens. But yeah, so far, good week so far.
We have talked about that and specifically the fringe teams. So you got the guys up top that they're in, and there's a good chance a lot of them maybe even their position won't change. And then there's guys at the bottom where they're planning their golf outings. And it's those guys in the middle, a handful of teams that you're going to see 100% every night. But you don't always see 100%. You saw it with that Yankee clip for the guy walking down the first base. These guys, you know, they're playing 82 games. And even if they're taking nights off throughout the season, it's a grind. I mean, you know, I do the show once a week. It's a grind. I imagine 82 games is a grind, John.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And like you said, you know, these players are human just like everybody else. So that comes into the factor. And, you know, the motivation and just like you said, how these teams are kind of jockeying for certain position spots. And, you know, unfortunately, there's probably a lot of players who on those lower seeds teams probably already mentally checked out. And, you know, they're kind of on their summer vacation already. So it makes it a little bit difficult for sports betting to do that. But that's like kind of why you said, You have to focus on those teams that really have something more to play for this time of the year.
Yep. So right now I have on my screen, I got the NHL board, the NBA board, and the MLB board. Now for me, 100% of my focus is the Easy Sports Data. And that's because, as you guys know, it takes a lot of work to put the Easy Sports Data together. And that's before handicapping. But the key is, once you get all that data in front of you, it makes the handicapping easier. So we started the day with Arizona. We had them, and we watched as they almost gave that game away twice. But what a crazy game that was. We had the over for team total for Cleveland. It's 3.5 and 1.5. So remember, my philosophy, John, is if I like them, why wouldn't I like them early? And sure enough, we cashed in the first inning. We cashed that. Now, what we have done normally, we would keep adding on that when they scored. I don't even know how they scored because I didn't, I have a show, so I didn't look. Yeah. But so it was 3.5 for the game. The only downside is, of course, they're in the bottom of the sixth inning, but they're the home team. The home teams don't bat. So when you got team totals on overs on home teams, you know, gotta hope they get it early because by the end they're just looking to bring in their closer and go home with a W. You know.
That's exactly right, especially kind of this time of the year where, starting pitchers on a pitch count. A lot of these guys are very well vested into their middle relief and their bullpen rotation. And just like you said, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, you know, they're kind of bringing in their closers to close out the game. And then obviously the home teams, they don't get the advantage if they're up, you know, if they're winning the game to get that bottom half. So, and
you don't think about it, but that's 1/9. Well, if 1/10 is 10%, 1/9 is more than 10%. So it's more than 10% of the game you lose. So it's really a play. So let's look at then the NHL. Now, your NHL plays are always excellent. And you and Wes, of course, his name is Blackhawk Wes. And though he's not here tonight, he's here in spirit. And I think he actually gave out a play or two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that on the text. But let's ask you, John, did you do any NHL so far today?
No NHL for me today. I'm on a little bit of MLB and NBA today. So no NHL for me personally.
All right, so let's read Wes's NHL. It says,
sounds good.
Not touching Islanders cast, but he likes Florida money line against the Canes, and they're up 1-0.
Yeah, they got up. Yep, they got up early.
Money line against the goalie making his second start of the year for the Avs, and that must be a later game, right? If it's at Colorado.
Yeah, I think Colorado might be on the road for this one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't start. Well, actually, it's just starting now.
Yeah.
It's just starting now. So we're going to look at these boards, and this is what we do. Okay. It's 8:04 in New York. If where you are now, it's 8:04 in New York. So you could be anywhere you want, but if it's 8:04 in New York, you're watching this live. And what I told you is how we win every week is we say, okay, what's happening right now? Find an opportunity, play. So what do you got to have? Well, yeah, you got to have WWRSN. You have the Worldwide Sports Radio Network on. You got to have that. You got to be watching us. You got to be paying attention, and you got to have an account. You got to either be in the book now, John. At least once things are rock and roll, pretty much almost every week you're going to call from the book as long as it's not too noisy, right?
Yeah. Eventually, yeah. Exactly.
Where you are.
Yep. That's where we are, right in the book. So
let's look. These games are all in the second period. Now, I sent you guys a stat. Though I don't play, I'm a stat guy. It was like 20-5 in the last 25 games in the NHL for the last 3 or 4 days. The second period has had 2 goals or over. Well, all these are going into the second period. So I'm thinking, let's look at some of these games and tell me what you think. Well, the Toronto-Winnipeg game, they've already scored 5. So if you had the over in that game, good luck for you.
Yeah.
I may not come back with that second period, but with Carolina, Florida, now remember, we're doing this without watching these games, which really isn't a smart thing to do. But what I know is I know John and Wes know their hockey. So I know that I could do that. I could do that if I have to. All right, so let's do Carolina, Florida. That's the game. He has Florida, but they only scored 1. What do you think about me doing a money line?
No,
all right, so I'm looking at live betting. I'm going to the NHL, and I'm looking at that Florida game because I know those are good teams, right?
Yeah, those are very, very, very good teams there. They're on top of their so-called division conference, how they align those divisions. And you would think, okay, so we got Florida up 1. Florida was technically the underdog, but you would have to think that you're going to see some goals coming here in the second period. So I actually like that play for that game too. These are very good teams, very, very good scoring teams. So,
all right, so it's not open yet, and that's the other thing about live action. It just opened. They scored already.
Oh man,
we're 16 seconds into the second period. So we're there.
Yeah.
Will I come back with it? I'm going to have to see what 2.5 is. Now, 2.5 is minus 160, so I'm not coming back. But
yeah,
that's really how quick live action is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a little behind because I'm not using ESPN or NHL.com because sometimes they'll play commercials and you can hear them on the show. So I'm using another site. So let's go with the Rangers. Now, the Rangers have been scoring a ton of points.
Every game.
That's a 6.5 over. And they only have 1. So let's look at it because the 6.5's on the high end, isn't it?
6.5 is a little bit on the high end for hockey. You normally see them, I would say, anywhere from 5, 5.5 to 6. Very rare that you see a 6.5 and a 7. Very, very rare that you would see these high numbers for totals in NHL. But you know that old saying, if it's high, it's got to be for a reason, right? So
well, yeah, and we've talked about that. I have a philosophy from the number standpoint because I know how Las Vegas works. They can't make it 7 or 7.5 because
everybody would slam the other side of that.
They trust the lines, exactly.
Yeah,
I got to get more high in here. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to hop on that at minus 178. What do you think?
I like that. I mean, if they only scored 1 and Vegas set the line at 6, you would have to imagine that there's got to be some goals scored here soon, right? Because normally we know Vegas, they're pretty good. We're getting these lines awfully close to how it is. So you got to think the law of averages where we only have 1. You got to think we're going to see some goals pop off here pretty soon.
And then the other game I would look at is Columbus, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is down. That to me seems like an opportunity.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is down. I think Tampa Bay was at home too, if I remember correctly. Cause just glancing over them, and I think they might have lost the last game as well. So this is an opportunity where Tampa Bay, we all know who Tampa Bay is. They were probably getting a minus 200 and more during this game. So this is an opportunity where if you waited, now you can get them probably with some plus money going in.
Actually, no, it's not. It's a minus number. It's a minus 113.
Oh, okay.
Minus 113. But we're going to do the same thing, too. We're going to take the total in that second period also over 1.5. That is a plus number.
Yep. I like that. Tampa Bay scores a lot of goals, and they can score quick. Kind of once they get one, they could get 2, 3, or 4 really quick.
Boom, boom.
Yep.
And remember, that's part of what we do with our Sports Betting Weekly Cash Tickets page. We have this page where you could join us. And really, how many times, John, in the course of a week will we see boom, which means a wager one that we really placed recently?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, if you've been watching the podcast the last couple of weeks, I know we took a little break 2 weeks ago, but before that, we were 6-1. Last week, I think Wes, when he gave out, I think we cashed 2 plays live on air in I would say a matter of 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. And then we kept kind of piling on to that. So that's a case where we cashed 2 or 3 tickets within 20, 30 minutes live on air. And then we still had a couple more that we cashed out after we got off too. So.
All right. So for a second there, I saw Dan from Belly Up Fantasy. He's going to be joining us from Belly Up Sports. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide over into the baseball.
Sounds
and
good.
I'm going to look at some of this Easy Sports data and tell you what I've got for tonight. So I already told you the games that I have with the early games.
Mm-hmm.
The Seattle game has started now, and they still are scoreless. So we're going to sit tight on that one. But the over on that game is 9.5, and right now it's 1-0 in the third. So there's going to be some live action there. It's just a matter of what it's on. Mets in Chicago, I have no opinion on that game. There was no data, and the Angels are starting now. The Miami and San Francisco. So I have the Angels already over, and I have the Angels team total over. So in an hour, when we're about to get off the air for the loudmouths, what will happen is I'll check that, and I might double down on that one. The same thing tonight. The Dodgers are going at 7-10. Now, we all know what a great series they had, the Padres and the Dodgers. They're playing again tonight. But then in between, Milwaukee came in here and swept the Padres. So it'll be interesting to see. I really think that the home bats, the Dodgers did not score in that series. Don't get me wrong. Padres got good pitching, but the Dodgers bats hit anybody pretty much. I think some home cooking is all they need. I'm looking for a team total early in that way, and that one to be a casher for us. So that's where we're at. Now, I've got a couple things to say, but I'm going to have John tell us right now. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna go ahead on the sheet because I need to get a drink of water because I'm dying here. All right, my question for you is next week is the Derby. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty big deal. What though for you, John from GMF Sports Consultants? Oh, you know what I got to do? Let me before I let you answer the question. Let's get our banner on there.
There we go.
All right. Check out John on Instagram. There we go.
There we go. Nice.
For you, what's your favorite annual sporting event and why?
That's tough. Okay. So I would kind of split it in two. I would say sporting event would probably be Super Bowl. I think you could probably put that in majority of people's top sporting event. And then I would also go, even though this is kind of it takes a part during several weeks, would be the March Madness tournament. For me, those are my top two, kind of sort of my Christmas, day revelation of opening presents in the gambling world. That would be where I'm like a little kid, for Super Bowl and for March Madness, specifically the tournament.
They both stand alone. There's no wrong answer, of course, but they both stand alone in terms of being special. Like you said, the thing about March Madness. And look how now don't get me wrong. Yes, I had Baylor. I gave it out to my sister, and she wanted to come to the pool. She was the only girl in the pool, and she won it all. Yes, I had the exact amount of points they scored in the game, exactly to the penny.
Yep.
But it was still special. And the reason is because of the fact that we didn't have it. And I think We thought it was special, but when they took it away from, well, they didn't take it away. When we lost it for a year, we realized, John, how special those weeks are.
Oh, definitely. That was obviously with everything going on in the world back then, and then just not having college basketball. I think when it came back, this March, I think everybody kind of realized what I don't want to say a precious moment, but what just a great time in sports that is to see these young kids. These are college kids. These are 18, 19-year-old kids playing on the biggest platform in front of everybody for this. So it's really great to see that, because you get so much emotion from the players, from the coaches, and it's just great to have that.
All right, so I'm going to get you in charge of highlights. So what are you looking at for us? You're going to highlight us on NHL because we have 2 plays going, right?
Correct. Yeah. We got the Rangers right, and then I think we doubled back on Panthers too for the second. So I got to get.
I think I went with the over in the Carolina, Florida for the second period.
Second period, yeah, second
Then
period.
I went with Tampa Bay for the game, and over in that game for the second period.
Over in the second period for that one, yeah.
So where do we stand? Any luck so far?
I have not seen any update here lately. I'm going to switch over to my NHL network that I got watching, and we'll kind of peep in on that action there. I was watching the Yankees game there. Yeah.
Just remember, don't show it on the screen.
Nope.
We have eyeballs everywhere.
Nope. I'm keeping them in front of me. We won't put them on the screen, so we don't want to violate the rules.
Exactly.
So,
Of course, everybody knows me. Mine is the Derby. I mean, I have. I just started the data. I have the entire Kentucky Derby data from 2007. Every single year, I keep the spreadsheet. I'll start doing social media on that. But I've hit the last 5 winners in a row, including 2 exactas and a trifecta. However, 2 of the years, I didn't win any money because I don't normally bet to win. And so what happened is I keyed a horse on top, and I had him with like $300 worth of pieces. And if I had just bet $300 on him, I would have won like 4-1 because the favorites were winning. All right, so I'm going to hop on the baseball and check out baseball real quick.
Yeah, we still got 1-1. I just seen the score for the Panthers Hurricanes, still 1-1. Just to kind of touch base.
Well, no, it was 1-0 when we.
Yeah. They scored, and they had scored right on that second period. Yeah. So that's 1-1-1, and just to kind of touch base on the West pick that he gave out, St. Louis Blues just scored. So they're up 1-0, and that was kind of a pick that West threw out on the thread.
Well, we mentioned
they just scored.
It had started just as we came on the air. So
they scored within the first 4 minutes. So
remember in the old days, you would get shut out, and you'd be so mad because what's the number 1 rule? If you get shut out because you didn't get there on time, for whatever reason, that pick's going to win.
Oh, you already know that's going to win. Yeah. And then you're going to watch it in disgust, and you're going to be mad the whole night because you couldn't get it in. That's the worst thing when you get to that window and they say, sorry, getting kicked off already. Not anymore.
You just hop over to live action, and so often there's a little bit of a delay. So the very beginning of the game, sometimes you can't get live plays in. So if they take the opening kickoff back, or, if a guy gets hurt in the NBA in the first play, or somebody scores a quick goal, any of those things happen. Yeah, well, you're going to be out of luck. But normally they don't, of course. And then you can hop on it right away. And sometimes it works out to your advantage because a team that you like, and tonight that team would be in hockey. That was an excellent example that you gave.
Yep.
When we're dealing with a team like Tampa Bay that's minus 250 and they go down 1-0, now we're getting them at minus 113. So we're going to win the same amount of 100, but now I got another 100. It's like I won $130 if you look at it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're just improving your odds. You're getting your money in, and your return into investment is greater. And as a sports bettor, that's really what you want to do long term, is put your money at the right places at the right odds to make sure that you're maximizing whatever it can be, those payouts, because that's going to help out in the long run.
No doubt about it. All right, so we're going to go back to baseball. So with the Cleveland game, it's still 3-3. Now they're going into the bottom of the 6th. We need 1 run there. I don't think I'm going to hop on it, but I'm going to check just for the heck of it. I'm going to check what the live action right now is on the team total for those same Indians to go over. All right, so we're going to welcome here in just a second Dan from the DCs and Belly Up Fantasy. But first, I just want to check on that Cleveland team total over and see how much it's moved. And it is now at 4.5.
Wow.
So we got it at 3.5, so that's not bad. We got a whole run to work with. Hey, Dan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Chaz, thanks for having me on, man.
So, another announcement I've got to make. Championship football, the coolest present. We've been shipping footballs to the winners, and we don't have a problem. Then Dan starts going on a tear and winning, so we're finding charities. But here's the date. On Thursday, June 3rd, championship footballs will be in Houston for the TriStar Productions Autograph Show. We will have a booth, and we are doing this show live from Houston, Texas. We don't know where, but the reason I'm telling you now is because I need Dan to run the board so I could just call into my own show as a guest from Houston.
Anytime, Chaz.
I know you got family and stuff, but I also know that you could do it real easy, because you know what you're doing. I wouldn't have to teach you anything. You could probably teach me a trick or two. But, yeah, so we're pretty excited about that. As you know, collectible shows, card shows, they're really not a good social distancing platform. You're 400 people in a VFW that holds 128. It's not a good way to keep saying. But tomorrow morning, just so you know, I will go to Walgreens and I'm getting a second needle. They've already given me one needle. I'm getting another needle. I don't like needles, so what I'll do is I'll look away and I'll hum so I don't hear anything. But so I'm ready to go to Houston. We're really excited about it. We're going to have some great signings. And the other reason I brought it up, Dan, we're going to have a lot more inventory. Though the Baylor basketballs won't be ready till August sometime, between now and Houston, we're going to have, for the first time ever, 5-time Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys souvenir footballs.
Nice.
Pretty excited about that. To take to Houston, you would think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah, well, you know, those Dallas fans are everywhere. I mean, that's the one thing. For a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl in 45,000 years, they sure have a rabid fan base, don't they?
Who are you telling? I live in the Northeast, right in between Philadelphia and New York City. There might be more Dallas fans than there are Giant or Eagle fans or anything else.
And again, I understand, because when I was growing up, the Cowboys and the 49ers games, the Cowboys and the Packers games, they were incredible football. And that was who won the Super Bowl usually that year. But it's been such a long time, and they just swallow Jerry's juice, basically. That's what they're doing. All right, so let's talk to Dan. Dan, next Friday is when we start seeing you guys covering the draft?
Thursday. Yeah, it's going to be Thursday and Friday. So we'll be on at 7:30, about a half hour before the NFL draft kicks off. Chaz, you're going to be on with us for that first half hour. And what's going to be unique, what I hope will be, accepted by everybody and make everybody excited and everything like that, is we're going to be doing pick betting analysis along with fantasy football and general football analysis all throughout the night. Between Thursday and Friday, we're going to have 50 different guests on. Every 5 picks, we're going to have 2 to 3 different guests to come on that. So the idea is hopefully, like, whether you're playing in dynasty leagues, we'll be able to give you a lot of great fantasy football information. Whether you are waiting for your favorite team to pick, we'll be able to break them down depending upon what draft pick they select, if it's smart or stupid, we'll see. And then if their team's not up, we'll do the pick-by-pick betting analysis, so hopefully we'll be able to win you money while you're being interactive throughout the draft, while you're waiting for something you actually care about and one of the other things.
Yeah, we lost you there for a little bit. StreamYard's struggling a little bit today.
A little bit of a lag?
Well, I don't know. They kind of did it to me. They've done it to all 3 of us, so at least they're not prejudiced, But so what you were saying is you're going to be covered from every single angle.
Exactly. So hopefully it'll be very interactive for anybody who's going to be tuning in during Thursday and then again on Friday. So we'll be back Friday at 6:30 because the draft starts at 7 o'clock for the second and third round, and we'll be streaming all the way through. It's commercial free, and we'll be going all throughout the night. The only thing we're not covering is around 4 through 7 because I won't be around that Saturday. Maybe that's something we'll do next year, but for the first year, I'm looking for. I think it's a good stepping point to do the first 3 rounds, and we'll see how this thing goes. But I expect it to be a big event.
All right, so let's talk to you about you. How big of a draft have you always been a draft fan?
Yeah, I've even before I started doing shows, I was always the guy who wanted to watch tape. I wanted to see who was coming up, whether it was from a 49er fan perspective or a fantasy football perspective, whatever the case may be. I always found myself watching tape, and that probably goes back to my football days where I know how to watch film. It's something I've always done. I've always liked to do. So I've just kind of continued that on and just breaking down guys and having an idea of, when these guys get selected, how are they going to fit? The talent is always there. Whether a guy's going to be good or a bust, it's neither here nor there to me. I want to know what is your skill type, so I know what you're going to fit when someone drafts you, because that's more important than anything else, and I find that fascinating.
So, what is the top 2 things from the first round that you're excited to see?
Well, the top thing will be seeing where these quarterbacks go, because there's all this hype around these guys. Could we have the first time ever where we have 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 5 picks? Is certainly a possibility depending on who trades up, but also knowing that out of those 5 quarterbacks, 2 to 3 of them are going to probably be busts. So again, it goes back to kind of like that fit thing where I'm kind of looking forward to see where these guys go and then projecting along with that. And then the other aspect of it, of course, because my show, the MD's Fantasy Football Show, we harp on fantasy football, is figuring out who are these values going to be? What rookies are going to have 2021 value, or what rookies do we think are going to be more valuable from a dynasty standpoint, and kind of breaking that all down. The one thing that strikes me about this draft class in particular, it's very top heavy. No matter what position you look at, it's very top heavy. It's actually not a strong class once you get past the 3rd round. Once you start getting into those bottom tier guys, the guys who are going to fill out your special teams, is not as good of a skill set. So it's going to be very dependent upon who hits in that top heavy part of the draft this year.
Remind me, because I am not a draft guy. I repeat, I am not a draft guy. I barely watch the Heisman, be honest with you, because I like football games. And the other stuff around football is great, but it doesn't do anything for me. However, I'm pretty sure they've changed the way the draft is since I've really watched it. And this would be a year that I'm going to watch it because I'm going to talk about it with you guys. Remind me, how's it work? The first day is what round? The second day, and how's it go?
So, I mean, it used to be it was all in 2 days, but now you have Thursday night primetime television. It's just the first round. Each pick is 10 minutes each, unless there's a trade. Then it might be another 10 minutes on top of that, so it could be a 20-minute thing. And then Friday night is the 2nd and 3rd round. Saturday, which will be during the afternoon, I believe it'll be rounds 4 through 7. So it's a 3-day event now, basically, for the NFL draft.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's a big deal where they have it. Remember, just like anything, when the NFL comes to town, it brings some money with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be in Cleveland this year, which I think is great because those guys need a big event. It should be in Cleveland. It's where football, basically right down the street from where football started. So it should be there. And I'm glad that they've decided to move the NFL draft event around, because for the longest time it was always in Radio City, New York, and it didn't move around. So I'm glad it's turned into what it is. Gives you kind of like a football in the spring feel. So it makes guys like me really excited.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them to come back to Vegas. We got gypped out of the year. So yeah, I was looking forward to that.
I'm telling you right now that when they go back to Vegas, I'm going to be on the first plane out, because that's where I really want to go visit along with the NFL draft.
Let me know, man. Well, I'll be here. I can't wait. I was so excited, and obviously with everything that happened, they shut it down. But I was planning for that, just to have the whole experience and everything that they do with the draft. Just as a fan standpoint, not only being able to possibly watch it live, in front of you was just great. So I think they rescheduled it, I think, for Vegas. I'm not sure next year or the year after, but I heard.
Yeah, I have to double check. I think it's either 2022 or 2023 where they want to go back out there, because they want to go, go open up the new stadium.
The new stadium, yep.
And that's been, you guys got gypped twice.
That was why they were doing it, I think.
Yeah, they got gypped twice, because not only they didn't get to enjoy the new stadium in the first year at all, but you also lose out in the draft. So I do think it'll be soon, and I can't wait. That's a place I'm gonna have on my bucket list to make sure I gotta go see a game in that Vegas stadium, because it looks gorgeous.
All right, we got an update, a live action update. We're gonna make the move. We're hopping on the Seattle team total over. We got it over for the game. They haven't scored. We're going into the 4th inning. And they went down to 2.5, so we've got it at plus 111 at 2.5. So I'm gonna talk a couple more things about Dan about the draft. While I'm doing that, John, if you could get us some updates on the NHL scores, would you do that for me?
Gotcha.
Yeah, all right. So when we start, we're going to be starting right before the first pick, right?
A half hour before, yeah.
Right. And so in terms of betting those picks, how often have you actually bet who's going to draft who?
I've been doing it for the last 2 years now. So basically, it gives a nice wide variety of options. Now, in this case, in this draft, it's not going to be worth betting until you get to the 49ers pick at 3, because it's already pretty much locked in what 1 and 2 are going to do for the most part. But at 3, you got some variation there. I believe it, with all the talk about Mac Jones, Justin Fields is that plus 160 with the best, or not the best odds, but the lowest odds, actually. And then you have Mac Jones there at plus 180 with Trey Lance at plus 300. It's going to be one of those 3 players. So that's going to be an interesting one to talk about there. And then when you get further in, like Atlanta at 4, which could be a prime trade back target, you also get pretty good odds if you want to bet on it being a trade in that spot. So
well, you could make that wager. Will this team trade their pick?
Yeah, well, what it'll do is it'll come up with that slot. So, like, let's say, first round pick 4, will it be this player, this player, this player, or do you think they're going to trade kind of deal? And you'll have the odds set on that. So we'll be able to go through all that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited because I've not done it before, and really, Dan, you haven't known me that long. John's known me a little bit longer, but the guys have known me a while. They know I'll set my alarm to get up and bet on something. I have no problem. When Paulo and I talked to Paulo this week, we're going to get him on the show. When Paulo and I went through COVID together, it was me, Paulo, 4 horse racing tracks in 3 countries that were run by brutal dictatorships having soccer matches. And that's what Sports Betting Weekly was. And I was set my alarm because over in England, it's 3 in the morning here,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's insane, the time difference there. So, yeah, you're more dedicated than I am, Chaz, when it comes to making sure you got something to bet on.
And the only downside about San Diego is that early hour, because you really have to do the handicapping at night. And I do heavy handicapping, so it's a lot of reading. So you get tired. And with MLB, to have it ready for today, I was up last night, and I got all the scores in, and then I forget who it was, but somebody scored a couple in the bottom of the ninth to win the game. It was a walk-off. I think it was Seattle. Could have been Seattle. I don't know. But anyway, so I had to go back and change all the numbers because I had already run the report. So that's the downside of San Diego's the bomb, but the downside is the sports start really, really early out here.
Oh,
all
yeah,
right.
I believe it. Last night I was up late actually watching the Denver-Portland game, and I'm glad I put some money on Denver in the fourth quarter to pull it out.
Well, yeah, and that's the beauty of those later games. Is there's really nothing else on. There's only a handful of late games. So you can find live action opportunities because most of them are on. You can watch it somewhere. All right, so we're going to ask Dan, can you stay more?
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to, I think out here, I'm going to put on the new banner, and the new banner says if you join Dan on Twitter at BellyUpMDFF Show, right?
Yeah.
Plus, they can win a national championship football from your show Saturday nights if they go on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network at 6:30 California time, 9:30 New York time, and they enter the contest. They can win one of those, right? That's kind of how it works.
They can, if you can actually beat me. I wound up winning again this past week. Guys, got to beat the host.
I have said that in the past. I did. You could find it because every single one of our shows is at sportsbettingweekly.com. Somewhere I said I was surprised you didn't win every week. You're so good. And guess what? I was right. All right. When we get back, we don't know what we're going to do. We're going to check live action. John's getting some updates on the NHL games that we have. And you're listening to Sports Betting Weekly.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. We have with us Dan from Belly Up Sports Fantasy, the DC shows that I visit on Saturdays. We got John from GM Sports Consultants, and we're going to go right out to John because it looks like I didn't get another goal. We did get that second goal in the Carolina second
Correct.
period.
We got the second one. Carolina's up 2-1, and then we got Tampa Bay tied it up as well. So the Lightning tied it up. Guys who jumped in on that got a little bit better odds before pregame.
Right.
Yep.
It was minus 250, and we got it at minus 113. So
that's a big difference. Big difference.
All right, so let's see how we're doing with our baseball. Cleveland still hasn't scored. It's 3-3, though. That's the beauty, because as of right now, we're going to get that bottom of the ninth back. And Dan, what we were talking about is when you're betting team totals in baseball and you're betting the home team, you could lose 11% of your at-bats if they win the game, and they don't need to play in the ninth inning, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You need to close it out and top of the ninth inning, and game's all over.
And so we're waiting for another half a run there, and we are looking at the Seattle game. Again, Boston is up 2-0 now. When I have the other team and they're the visitor, I don't mind if they're down 8-0. As long as I get them to score, just keep scoring. So what we're looking at is, will we make any more plays in hockey? I think we're going to sit tight. I have, what do I got? We've got Seattle over 2.5 in live action, Tampa Bay in live action, and the Rangers-Phillies. We did bet that second period over. What happened with that one, John?
I think it was still 1-0. I don't think they got anything going in the second period.
No, it doesn't look like
it doesn't look like they scored, and I think they were getting close to the end on that one,
1-1
too.
now. It's 1-1.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Oh, they must have. Must have tied it up. So then that means we got one. Yep.
We got 2 minutes, but I've told you before when we talk on Saturdays, Dan, that I don't do any handicapping on this show. I come in baseball. Now I'm doing baseball, but up to that point, I was just asking a guy that's got his last name is consultant, and another guy's last name is investing. I asked him and what we're doing, and so many times they catch a break where the other team scores first, and the line drops like from 250 to 113, and if you didn't bet it, now you bet it. It's like you made $130 if they lose. That's the way I look at it, because that's what it saved me. Not that I would always go in and play minus 250s, because that's a pretty steep number. Minus 250s are supposed to win, but they have to win like at 80% for you to make money, and sometimes they don't win,
Yeah, definitely. I've been notorious for that, and the main category would be hockey and the Knights, because sometimes the Knights go down quicker, and I'm able to get them at a discount. I think we actually were able to do that twice last night against San Jose, and they wind up coming back and winning that game. So,
and it's really not a good habit if you want to win things, but it's obviously a habit now, because you're texting us. I'm betting the Knights, but I'm going to bet them again when they fall behind. You're not even saying if anymore.
I'm not even saying if, because I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. And as soon as it does, I missed the first one because they tied it up within a couple of minutes, but then it happened again, and I was able to jump on that. So get a little discount on that.
Yeah, you want to talk about a third period team. The Golden Knights have been a third period team pretty much all season long, especially as of late.
And that's another beauty of San Diego is almost always that game is on. They're going to show me the Knights game. They don't have nothing else they can show me. There's no hockey here. We don't get the Kings as much as you would think. We got a lot of Knights. All right, so I'm going to ask Dan the same question I asked John. Dan, next week is the Kentucky Derby. What is your favorite annual sporting event and why?
My favorite annual sporting event is March Madness. It's not even close. The action that you can get from start to finish in that tournament, first of all, the amount of money you can win because of how many different ways you can bet and how many games you can bet on is beautiful. But also, I love the idea, especially being on the East Coast, because the one thing I don't get here on the East Coast that you guys do on the West Coast, I don't get to wake up in the morning and usually get to watch sports right away. I have to wait till 1 o'clock, noon at the earliest. With March Madness, it's right there, 11 o'clock in the morning, and then it's all day long, especially that first weekend. I love being able to just sit back and watch sports all day and wake up in the morning with my morning coffee and be like, hey, here we go. Because I'm always up late because I'm trying to stay up and watch these West Coast games, which are killing me half the time because they're starting at 10 o'clock over here. I got to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning half the time.
I remember growing up, and I was betting in high school. So we're talking the mid-'70s. And I was a winner when I went to bed, and I was a loser when I woke up because it was a second half flip. And that was back then. You could bet the team that was going to win with the points and the over/under, and that was it. There was nothing else you could bet. There was no such thing as live action. You might have been, of course, bet money line, but I'm talking about second half action. So, as you know, in football, there are tales of two half games, and where two different teams show up. It seems like, and there's nothing worse than getting on the bus. Thinking you were up $100 and you're down $100, because back then it wasn't online, guys. Somebody was going to drive into my driveway in a black Cadillac, usually during dinner, and I had to. At one point I said, "Don't worry, Mom, it's just my drug dealer." You don't want to get in trouble for gambling, But what are you going to do? All right, so yeah, and John had mentioned it's the same thing. So let's talk about this weekend. As you know, we kind of use Thursday. I do anyways, my springboard into the weekend. I'll usually take my money out that I won. And last week was nice. And I was social media at one point. I put the money in. I put in $100, and Bitcoin took some of my money, of course, because they always do. They take it when I get it. They take it when I give it back. I can't win. So I ended up with like $93. And by the end of the week, I had it up to like $470 just betting baseball and hopping on some of John's plays and some of Wes's plays. So on Thursday, I'm looking at the weekend. Let's start with Dan from Belly Up Fantasy Sports. Dan, what's jumping out at you this weekend?
Well, this weekend in particular has been a little rough for me because I've been so focused on the NFL draft. But I'll always bet the NBA. I'm always going to bet the NBA. And the Lakers with Anthony Davis coming back, not betting it tonight, but because Anthony Davis should be getting more and more minutes as we roll through here, the Lakers are still underdogs in a lot of these games because of the way they've been playing. This is where you hop back on the bandwagon, and you're going to be able to win quite a few dollars. Like even tonight, they're at +3, and I think that's actually a pretty decent bet. But Anthony Davis tonight might only play 20 minutes. By this weekend, he'll be up to 32. And if you're going to give me Anthony Davis plus 32 minutes and they have a nice schedule this weekend, I'm going to hop back on that bandwagon. So the Lakers in particular are somebody that's sticking out to me at the moment. Also betting against Toronto this weekend. Siakam has been pretty much sitting out every other game. Fred VanVleet, we don't know when they're going to bother playing him. We don't know when they're going to bother playing Kyle Lowry at this point because they're in full tank mode. And they're trying to play these guys one at a time. If you've noticed, they'll play Siakam one time, and then they'll make him rest, and they'll bring Lowry back for one game, and then they'll make him rest just because they want these star players to play one game here and there, but never together because they don't want to try to actually win. The other night when they beat Brooklyn, that was a mistake. They didn't want to do that. It just happened that Brooklyn, because James Harden and KD went down, they were left with Kyrie Irving, so Toronto wound up winning that game, but that's not what Toronto's looking to do. So betting against Toronto right now is also another safe bet.
Well, and just so you know, guys, if you're watching this show, this is the first time Dan's been on the show. And I've been doing the show for 7 years, but I didn't know Dan. But I'll tell you right now, when I edit this, I will listen to what he says, and I will write it down, because how many Saturdays have you guys given me winners, Dan? I mean, between you and Chris. When Sunday, I just wake up, I have my little notes, and I write it down, because you see me, I write it down, and then I bet what you say, and you win. You're a very, very good handicapper, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very new to handicapping because I've spent most of my time on radio either doing general sports or fantasy football at DFS, and DFS kind of led the way into me wanting to handicapping some games as well. So I'm new to it, but it has been a pretty successful run, especially when I have ideas to be able to bounce off of you, Chaz, and you're able to back me up with a lot of your data that you guys have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, let's talk to John from GMF Sports Consultants. John, this weekend, what's anything on your plate that's going to jump out at you?
Just MLB. I'll kind of be amping up my MLB plays here a little bit as we start seeing more data, more trends, more analytics coming in. Obviously, you have Dodgers-Padres matchup going on, so that'll be interesting to watch. Another thing, too, that I'll be keeping an eye on is I'm a Yankee fan. born and raised in New York. And we all know the first, let's say 3 weeks, very young in the season. But I think the Yankees' struggles have been pretty much taken over the news here because the Yankees got off to the worst start in whatever stat that you could throw up there. It's been years and years and years. So I'm interested to see exactly what they do against the Indians and how they kind of climb out of this hole, so to speak, this early in the season. The Yankees have not been playing well. Obviously, they're not hitting. They have their issues on defense. And we could probably say, besides Cole, they have some serious questions at the starting pitching. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play out, from here on out.
Speaking of, they just took a 5-3 lead.
Yeah, they just took the lead. I'm going to say the same thing. And the reason I'm paying attention to that game is I don't care if the Yankees win 6,430. As
long as I get that 4, right?
Now I know I'm getting. It's guaranteed now that I'm getting.
You'll get that extra at bat at the end. So.
That's right, it's guaranteed. So I'm going to get that at last at bat, or I'm not going to need it. And that's really my favorite part of live betting is winning, making the decision that I'm not betting anymore. Because as you know, John, sometimes what did I have the other day? I had 9 plays on a game. Oh, it was that easiest win ever, too. It was that over. It was Sunday Night Baseball. It was the over. So it was the last game of the day.
They scored all those runs in the first second.
This game. And so, Dan, normally what we'll do is as soon as we catch a break, we'll keep going on that over. So if it hits the number, we'll throw another small unit. And Wes has a formula, but it's like a quarter unit, a half a unit, quarter unit, eighth of a unit. So no matter what happens, you're coming out ahead. But usually what'll happen is you'll catch 2, maybe 3, sometimes all 4 of them. Well, I ended up with 9 of them and hit every single bet. That's part of the reason I took that $93 up to 4 something. It's because the first bet of the day and the last bet of the day are real important, not only for your bankroll but for your attitude.
Yeah, I mean it's the golden ticket, right? It's that little nugget that gets you going, gets you motivated, and makes you start to feel good, like you're heading down the right track. Yeah, I have to say, Chaz, I've learned so much from you when it comes to live betting, because that's not something when I started handicapping, it wasn't something that I did very often. And being able to take tidbits from you of being able to pound it. If you like something, pound it first quarter, pound it second quarter, pound at the end of the game. That's a great tip. That I've been able to take really advantage of since you've been coming on the DC's DFS Challenge show on Saturday night.
Yeah, I had a situation the other day where I hit 2.5, over 2.5. I hit it, so I bet 3.5 and 4.5. And sometimes they won't, as you know, with live action, guys, you can only bet what they give you. Sometimes they'll give you 5, 6 numbers. Sometimes they don't. And so I could only bet, but I kept betting, and I ended up losing the last 2. But I went 5 and 2. So I was happy with 5 and 2 because if you don't bet those last 2, you can't go 7 and 0. You can only go 5 and 0. And I always tell people the funnest time was when they postponed that hockey game up in Tahoe, made it go later in the day, and then the next night the Bruins were on, and we were texting, the 3 of us, and between us, I think we cashed 7 bets each. So it might have been more. Wes bets a little more hockey sometimes than I think John does, because John will spread it out, but Wes likes his hockey. But yeah, so that's the beauty of it. You can lose, but you know what? You can only win if you bet. And if you bet like that formula, which I love for him, you hit the first one, worst case scenario, you're getting your money back. And that's a beautiful thing. You could do that every day. You would go to the casino every day, right?
And guarantee not to lose. Yeah.
No doubt about it. All right, so what else? Let's see. We've got Saturday night. I will be visiting you again. Will I not? Dan?
Yes, this Saturday night. We won't be on next Saturday night because I'm going to need a little bit of a break after that. But this Saturday night, we will be on.
Well, for you, because you could probably have some SCC issues with the Federal Communications, whatever that last stands for, if you put me on the air Saturday night on Derby Day. I'm telling you right now, I will be drunk really, really early. Understand, I was telling John, I've got the data from 2007. I've hit the last 5 for sure. I only went back 5 years. I was pretty giddy. I've hit in that 5 years, it included all the winners, a trifecta, and one of the exactas. And in 3 of the years, I got zapped by that 50-1 that comes in second. And one of the years, actually, I counted as a winner, but they disqualified Maximum Security. So it turned out it wasn't a winner. But the bottom line is it's It's my answer to that question. And I may not be awake by the time your show would go on if you were on that day. Never mind what my alcohol level would be. So.
Well, I feel like you do, Chaz, when you come on the show on Saturday night, because Thursday is my Saturday night. So Thursday, I've been living it up already.
Yep. Yeah. I'll sometimes drink on Thursday night, depending. But normally, I don't drink from Sunday night at 5 o'clock till Friday night, and sometimes that's Friday afternoon. It depends how my day goes. Because as you know, Dan, when you're working with video and editing these videos, it's not easy. It's hard. It takes a lot of work. So and
hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, and if you're buzzed, oh my God, it's so hard. I remember, I don't know what I just deleted something. I worked on it for an hour and a half, and then it said, "Do you want to save it?" I said, "Nah, I'm good," and I hit delete, and it didn't save it. So, all right, so we've got a handful of minutes left. I'm going to talk about a couple things. Like I said, if you were here earlier in the show, I already talked about it. I really like the Anaheim game with Houston, at Houston, to go over the line. So I bet that again, but it's still 2-0. No, Houston has scored. Okay, so Houston scored. They're in the bottom of the second, so I've got the over there. And then, you mentioned the Padres and the Dodgers. I'm coming back with that Dodger team total over. Let's ask John, what do you think? Because they have not scored a lot in the last few days.
Yeah, they have not scored a lot the last few days, so you kind of got to think they're obviously at home. And, this Dodgers-Padres matchup is maybe a potential, NLCS, battle going down the road as Padres spent all that money getting all these players there. And we could tell by the last series that there's really starting to build this kind of rivalry that is intense, So you got to think that the Dodgers in LA, their bats are going to show up. They're very talented on the offensive side. So you got to start seeing those numbers kind of, creep up here.
So in terms of baseball, Dan, because I know that Sunday we talk basketball. When basketball ends, are we going to slide right into football? What are we going to do on Saturday nights?
When basketball ends, we'll slide right into baseball. We'll start doing some DFS baseball up until the football season starts. So we will be dabbling in baseball during the summertime.
By that point, the Easy Sports data will definitely be fine-tuned. I mean, it's only been a week for it, but it's a pretty good week. I got nothing but green. I don't like red. When it comes to my account, my sports betting account online, I don't like red days. I understand red days are part of the game, and if you're only getting paid, like Wes does the same thing. We cash out on Mondays, and until Monday, it ain't over. But it's nice when you see those greens, because it just means you're in tune with whatever you're betting, and that's really the key. Is you get into a rhythm with these teams, and that's why we talk about you have to watch it, and it's hard to do live action when you're not watching, because you don't know why what happened. It could have been a fluke play. It could have been an injury. I'll never forget the one time I never checked the weather, and I had the over in the game, and when I turned it on, the wind was blowing 60 miles an hour, and the rain was going sideways, and the final score was like 6-3. I think they missed somebody hit a field goal, but the one guy missed the extra point.
So you're talking about that Cleveland Browns game. They had like a stretch of 3 weeks, which is horrendous weather up there in Cleveland.
Just brutal. But other than that, let's start with John. John, tell them how they can find you.
GMF Sports Consultants on Instagram, GMF Sports Betting on Facebook. You can also find us on the web browser, internet, gmfsportsconsultants.com. Any questions that you have, feel free to reach out on any of those platforms.
And if you're at sportsbettingweeklylive.com checking out the show, so here's how it works. If it's 5 of 9 where you are, it's almost time for the loudmouths. They're going to come next. That's in New York. So wherever you are, you ask yourself, what time is it in New York? And if it's 5 of 9, then this is live, and you're catching it live. But tomorrow, if it's after that, any other time, go to sportsbettingweeklive.com, and then you can go to the top. And one of the tabs is Cash Tickets page. And that's where you can hook up with John, too, and he'll give you some of his plays. You can hang around with him for the weekend. I guarantee it's worth your time and definitely worth your money. Dan, what about you?
You can check me out at BellyUpMDFF Show on social media. We always keep it open for you guys all year long for fantasy football questions that we can help you out with. And we'll be live tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Tomorrow, Chris and I are going to be doing a theoretical exercise. We're going to be doing a first-round mock draft, but only drafting fantasy-relevant players. So only drafting quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, which will give us the opportunity to talk about these players in specific locations. It's a little bit of fun because it's not actually going to happen, but kind of gives us an idea of like if these guys land in certain spots, what would their fits be? So it's going to allow us to do that as we head into the NFL draft week.
All right, before we go, I am also going to hop on the over in the Rangers game for the third period at plus 139. It's 2.5. The over was 6.5 for the game. I'm looking for it basically to get 3 goals in that last 20 minutes, and we'll see what happens. You can check me out, of course, at Second Half Chaz on Twitter. But more importantly, I'll update the clock in about 48 hours. Dan and I will at least be talking again because I've always appreciated the visits. Remember, I'm Second Half Chaz. Always be cashing.
Sports Betting Weekly.
All I do is win, no matter what.